Alright guys. Hey guys, what's up? So we've moved on to choosing a measure of central tendency, and it says here, sometimes it is a problem to decide which of the three measures of central tendency to use, as one may be more appropriate to a particular problem than another. And it says here, use the mean when the observations in a distribution are more or less symmetrically group about a central point. So when the observations are grouped about a central point, use the mean. When the measure of the central tendency will also form a basis for the other statistics. So when the central tendency forms this type of basis, meaning something that you can rely on for whatever you're solving, use the mean. When the problem requires the combination of the mean with other means of other sets of data measured on the same variable. So in this case, you may need to find the mean to compare it with other means based on the same data with other data that you're collecting. Maybe let's say, for example, you're collecting the height of um, boys across Jamaican high schools, and you may need to compare the mean with the other means. So that's a good example of when you should use the mean. All right, guys. So cool. So this is really important. We should know when to use the mean, and we're gonna move on to when to use the median and when to use the mode. All right, guys. Okay, guys. So now we're gonna be looking at choosing a measure of central tendency for the median. All right, guys. And it says when the problem calls for knowledge of the exact midpoint of a distribution, that's when you use the median. When the extreme values are included in the set of data, right? When they have extreme values in the data, you use the median. When a distribution has a high proportion of extremely high values as well as a low proportion of extremely low values, then you use the median, right? So in extreme values, in the case where you have, for example, you may have 1, 2, and then 1,000, and then 10,000, and then let's say 11,000, right? In this case, you'd want to use the median. And when a distribution has a high proportion of extremely high values as well as a low proportion of extremely low values, meaning um, the low ones are really low and the high ones are really high, right? Like in this example, then you want to use the median as well. Okay, guys? So I think we got the gist of that. And let's look at the mode. For the mode, you use the mode when you want a quick and approximate way of determining the central tendency, right? So for example, you want to just find what would be the central tendency really quickly. Let's say you have 1, 2, 2, and 3 here. So you'd say, okay, 2 is the mode, right? Quick and appropriate, quick and approximate immediately. You just get the mode, and that's when you use the mode. It's just very efficient in those cases when you want to just see what's the central tendency, what occurs the most. And the next one says, when the measure of central tendency is referred to as typical or the most usual or the most fashionable or the most popular, right? So you basically want to find the one that's most popular or most used, most usual, most fashionable, or the typical one is typically that color, right? Or typically that number. That's when you want to use the mode. Okay, guys? All right, so we're pretty much finished with this section, okay, in terms of choosing a measure of central tendency. And we're going to move on and look at something new. Okay, guys? That's it. And I'll see you in the next lecture. And remember to do your best, and God will do the rest.